All right.
30 more seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to New Work Life in Times of Corona. We're starting our third week. My name is Anna Yukiko Bickenbach. I'm the event and program manager here at GERMANTECH, and we have digitalized everything. So we're able to welcome everyone here from anywhere and everywhere. And I'll hand over to Maria, who will go ahead and tell us quickly what GERMANTECH does. And
Yes. Hello, also from my side. My name is Maria. I'm one of the managing directors at GERMANTECH. We are an ecosystem builder. So we do build digital ecosystems for a sustainable future. What does that mean? We work with corporates, with startups, but also with public institutions, governmental institutions, all kind of initiatives to use technology and entrepreneurship to make this world a better place. And as you can imagine, we're thinking and discussing a lot at the moment how, of course, the whole Corona situation will change the world. And we are still convinced, or now even more convinced, that there will be more technological solutions to all of this. And we already see a few, though we're only in, so for us it is week 3 that we are in all the home offices with the whole team. But we can see that people are learning super fast, and we also learn super fast, and it's what we're here for, to share a little bit with you what happened during the last week, what were the learnings from us, but also from people from our network. What did we hear about, and what do we want to share with you? And also, of course, to answer your questions if you have some directly to us.
If you have any questions, feel free to either write it in the chat box, or you can actively actually raise your hand and unmute yourself, and we will just call on your name. So we can make this a little bit more interactive and more fun, because one thing that we've also learned is to iterate our processes and to figure out continuously how we can always improve our events. And so this is another test period to have everyone involved. So Maria, what were your learnings from the last week? Just to note, this is our third week where we're starting like our third week, but in the last week, what are some of the things that have enlightened you?
So I guess the one most important thing is that we are getting out of this shock that we were kind of in. I feel that when I wake up in the morning, I do not feel as if I was in a bad dream. Or if this, I don't know if you also had a feeling during last week that sometimes you were like, is this real or is this one of the movies? Because it literally felt like an episode of Black Mirror sometimes, because things were happening so fast, and a lot of the things that happened were kind of unexpected and stuff like that. So what my biggest learning is that we are getting into some kind of normal. I don't want to insult anybody or get too close to anybody with this, because I know that there are people suffering on a medical level and on a health level from this, and we don't want to be offensive in any kind of that. But from a business kind of perspective, it feels like we're getting into something. Okay, this is the new normal. It might be the new normal for a few more weeks, so you better get used to it. That's at least what my experience, my personal experience is. And the good thing about this is getting into this new normal also enables us to think forward again. Because for a few days or even weeks, it was just like reacting to everything that happened around us and reacting to stuff that was coming from the outside. But now we're getting more into an acting role again. So from reacting to acting, where we can start thinking about, okay, so what exactly will this change in our society, in our economy? How can we contribute? What can be new models, new products that might be relevant for the future? How can we learn of all the maybe also mistakes that we're making during the last weeks, and prevent them from happening again? And of course, I also feel that I'm very, very thankful for the whole environment that I'm in at the moment, because when you look at the situation in other countries, I don't want to name any, but I feel kind of blessed because I still have the feeling we're good. The health system is kind of working out. The numbers are not as bad as they could be compared to other countries. And I also feel this, this gratefulness for the situation that we're in, and that really helps me through the day to just also see, okay, this is like, could be worse. So make something out of this, of the good things that were given to us.
I would agree with you on that. Just from the background that I have family and friends in the U.S. and also in Japan. Whereas in Japan, everyone's still functioning completely normally. And one of the reasons maybe the spread hasn't been so big is they've talked about it too in the news. It's the culture that you automatically just distance yourself or wear a mask if you're out and about, if you're sick. And so things there have not changed in Okinawa. My father, on the other hand, he's in Whistler, and I see, a lot of people discussing politics in the U.S. because it's always this Democrats, Republican, who's doing it better, and it's two complete different ways of thought. So it's hard to, be completely transparent there how they're going to deal with the situation. It's not going to be easy. Whereas in Germany, I've always felt very safe because we have the safety blanket and the federal government does quite a bit for us. And when it comes to GERMANTECH, I think we'll talk about it a little bit more later. We started quite early on, 3 weeks ago, that we signed like Kurzarbeit contracts. The first Monday when they opened up, Maria was on the phone trying to make sure all the paperwork was ready and done. And so I can agree with you. I feel really good about that. Being a mother of one child, the Kitas have been closed, and this is, the third week we're starting. And what we've done is we just rotated our child with one other family, and that is the only social group we have. So it's literally a group of, 2 parents, 2 kids, and myself, and Yoshi's father. And now we're in a routine. So it feels better that we now have a routine. Things feel a little bit more settled. The things I've learned is, terminology, which we used last week or 2 weeks ago, was calling it physical distancing and not social distancing for people who have thoughtful, anxieties about that. There's nice words of collective healing, that people are reflecting about their lives and how they feel. And what we learned last week at our female entrepreneurship and investor meetup was the word progressive DNAs and startups, which I thought was really nice, because I think Corona is going to test everyone's character. And I think that's what I really am trying to prove to myself, is that I'm testing myself as like an individual, as a parent, as an employee. How am I going to get through this time with everyone around me? And when we looked at, even startups, so we can talk about later, Maria has some tips maybe for how they can make the runway. I think startups, if you are able to be progressive in this time, you're surely going to make it out of other difficulties you might have. So I think it's a good time. It's going to make everyone stronger and better. And, like you said, if we look at other countries, we're pretty well off. So there's nothing we really have to freak out about. So how about we talk about what's been happening in Germany? Because in the past we've had international audience from Canada, US, and Italy. My feeling is that most everyone here is from Germany. If not, feel free to, write that in the chat or not. Because then we don't necessarily have to rehash all the things that the federal government is providing to us. But maybe, Maria, you want to do a little rundown on Berlin and what's happening, how they're supporting us.
So during the last week, I also spent a lot of time on the phone in Zoom calls and in Hangouts with a lot of entrepreneurs and founders from the Berlin startup scene. Because we talked about it, that there are huge amounts of money that the German government announced very, very fast, that they will set up programs and kind of programs that will support the economy that companies can apply for. And when it comes to this, it gets a little complicated, but actually it is not that complicated. So there are programs when it comes to the larger amounts of money. If you're looking into your cash flow planning and you're looking for more than 500,000 euros, you should look into the programs that were announced by the federal government. So those programs will be you have to request them at your house bank, so your normal bank, the one that is also running your accounts, and they will then support you to request that kind of money, which is like above 500,000 K from the KfW, which is the federal state bank in Germany. Then there are different programs in Berlin. It is, and most in the States, it is 2 different kind of programs that you can apply for at your state bank. So I don't know in which states you are. In which states you are, I'm sorry. In which state you are. In Berlin, it is the IBB, the Investitionsbank Berlin. And they started so you could start requesting that money on Friday. It is 2 programs. One is a credit up to 500,000 K that you have to pay back within 2 years without any Zinsen. What is Zinsen? Without interest. Yeah. Exactly.
Interest.
And then there is the second program that is up to 15K, which is for solo entrepreneurs and the smallest companies up to 10 employees, which is up to 15K. And that is money that you get as a grant, so you do not have to pay it back. The kind of funny, but actually not so funny thing that happened is that everything was supposed to be online and that you request everything online, and the servers of the bank completely broke down. They then set up a virtual queue, which I thought was pretty smart. The problem was just that were like literally hundreds of thousands of people in these queues. So it took a while, hours and sometimes days, and some of my entrepreneur friends are still in the queue waiting to request this money. So you should really take some time. I know that in other states, the requests are only accepted starting from today. So it seems like Berlin was super fast. Unfortunately, the system of the IBB was not prepared for such a huge amount. They also stopped accepting the requests in between because they were for the credit part, there were 100 million euros announced by the state of Berlin. And the requests were much more than that. So they stopped it now, but just 10 minutes ago, there was the press release that they now have 350 million for this kind of support, and they will start accepting the requests again soon. So if you did not manage to do it yet, please stay in the queue, stay in the virtual queue. I know it takes a lot of patience, but it is worth it if you need the money to survive. It is also very important to say that the money from this, it is called Soforthilfe 1, that you have to pay it back. So when you do your cash flow planning, do not think that this is like money that is just given to you, that you have to have a plan how you will do revenue, how you will do profits afterwards, because you will have to pay it back. Otherwise, this is just something that will prolong your death, the death of your company. And I think it's something that people do not talk a lot about it, because we all want to survive and we were in the survival mode, but we also have to think about, is this an instrument from the state that does it really make sense for me and my company? Because if I do not see any chance how my startup or how my business will be ramped up again after the crisis, and nobody knows exactly when the crisis will end, then this does not help you. And then you should really, really be careful with taking this credit, because the founders are personally we say that,
responsible
responsible for it. So it might be also kind of dangerous for your personal liquidity. Yeah.
So how long did the whole process actually last, from starting, the paperwork to getting someone on the phone and being in the queue?
I didn't, for the EBB, I did not call at all. And I was super lucky. I don't know how I managed, because when I got into the queue, I was I only had about 6,000 people in front of me. So I was super fast. It took me, I started at noon. I handed in the request at 5:30. So it took me like 6 hours. Yeah, something like that. But I know from others that they have been in the queue for the whole weekend, in 4 hours and for even days. And even if you start doing the process today, so this morning, it were 180,000 people in the queue.
Okay.
Crazy, but yeah.
So, okay, well, how about we also talk about what new things we've enacted at work. 2 weeks ago, we started with 100% home office. We knew that some changes were going to come. And we basically kind of, what's the right word? We're trying to just figure out all the challenges, as you said. We were trying to, das Feuer löschen, like we were trying to just get rid of all the fires and figure out how we're all going to work with each other, routine with all the different tools.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us an update on that?
Yeah. So I'm really, really happy how our team is coping with the home office situation. I think we're really, really doing well, and everybody is kind of engaged and tries to stay in contact with each other. We've been talking about the tools that we are using for that. For example, that we have this digital team room open all day where we can talk to each other. So it is something that is in the background of everybody's computer all day, so we can talk to each other. Nevertheless, there will be some changes, and that's also kind of a recommendation that I give to all the startups out there. The situation still has many, many question marks, and we don't know how long the situation how long it will take us to get back to normal, and we also don't know what the new normal is. The Senate of Berlin also just announced that all the measures that they have taken into account for now will be in place until the end of the Easter holidays, the end of the Easter vacation. So it will be the 20th of April until this is the time where we will definitely stay in the home office, not be working together, not be meeting physically. So everything as it has been during the last 1.5 weeks. So for all the startups out there, it is my advice to look at your cash flow and look which measures you can take to make the runway as long as possible at the moment. Stay in contact with all your clients, with all your partners, of course, but try to cut down the costs as much as possible. So what we've been doing, for example, is that we've asked us again, okay, which tools do we need? And of course, we also took into account which state support we can use, like the EBB stuff, but we also took into account what we will not take, or which instruments we will not use. So for us, we will not take any. We will not take all the instruments that, for example, the state of Berlin took into place, but we've been thinking about Kurzarbeit, which is short-term work, and we will use that as a measurement to cut our costs down, especially now that we do not have as much work, for example, with our corporate clients. So we will be staying, we will not go down to 100%. We will support all of our communication channels, and we will be still producing content to support all of our stakeholder groups out there. And we will, of course, be working with all the corporate clients that we still have on board. But that's an advice to everybody: take into account where you can cut down costs. and then use these measures also to do that.
And I think it's really relevant to talk about it because people are throwing the term out there, Kurzarbeit, and that they've signed contracts, but it's another thing to talk about how have you enacted it? How have people reacted to it? And I think in our case, I think it's good for us to also be transparent and say, I was really happy with management because they're very transparent from the beginning. Like when this all started, Maria, she sent us the paperwork and then we had a discussion. What does it actually mean? And then on Monday when we had our drill fix, it was pretty much a very transparent, simple statement saying this is a precautionary measure to make sure that, we're not going to be surprised in 2 months' time, but that we're making sure we stretch the runway, as Maria says. And for me as an employee, this is something that was very transparent. I was expecting that some of the hours would be cut. And as the whole economy is slowing down, I feel like I can embrace it because it's like the most normal thing that our wheels are also kind of slowing down with everything else. So for me, that's completely fine. And I can appreciate it. In terms of being an employee, I would rather cut my hours and a few months time I don't have a job with GERMANTECH. That's just my personal opinion because I understand the situation in which everyone is in. So if anyone's in management and anyone has a team underneath you, I think the best way to handle this is to be transparent and to explain the scenario of what's happening and why you're enacting it. Otherwise people might be completely surprised and feel like they've been knocked out up on the side of your head. And so I think that's good to talk about too. And we're all going to be figuring out how to work with each other with different hours as well. So that's going to be the next step, I think, is then figuring out, okay, what are the hours? Maybe what are the core hours? Who has what responsibilities? And so then we can get into that routine as well. So.
Yeah. So if you have any questions also regarding the Kurzarbeit in general, we are also happy to talk in one-on-ones. Just get back to us if that is something that you did not look into with your startup yet. It is definitely something that will help you for a few months, so you do not have to let off people. You can keep your stuff. You can keep the knowledge that your stuff has in the company during this uncertain times. It's really, really something that I would recommend you.
And I think, as we said too, it's like testing, right? We're like testing the whole entity in like the toughest time. So if you come out of it, you're going to come out of it stronger for it. Do we have anything else to add, Maria, to our weekly Corona cast, as we call it too, in our
yeah. So if you did not subscribe to our newsletter yet, I recommend that to you. We also start writing content now, or we will start write more content on our learnings with workshops with corporates, how we do that, how we digitize them, what our learnings for that. I also wrote an article on Medium about why I think it is now the time for zebras. For those of you who don't know the term zebra yet, zebras are kind of the counter startups to the unicorns.
You have it in the background of your screen, by the way.
Oh,
you just show it. No, it's like there on behind your right shoulder.
Oh yeah, that's like, you see that one. It is a zebra. It has the horn. So the unicorns are startups that have the biggest goal of them is to hyper growth and to make as much profit as possible, to make as much profit for the shareholders as possible. And what we've seen during the last years is that some of them have business models that are not sustainable, that are not good for our society and for our economy and for our world in general. The other kind of companies and startups that are out there are zebras. They're called zebras because they're not only concentrating on measuring or on maximizing their profit, but they are concentrating on maximizing profit and wealth and also impact. So they are not only black or white, they are black and white. That's why we call them the zebras. And I think especially for those startups, now that we are in a time where people start thinking a little bit more about, okay, the world that we lived in during the last decade maybe, or during the last years for sure, is this a society that we want to live in? Is this the economy that we want to live in? How much do we want to learn out of this and start building the new world now that we have this this massive change that might come, and I hope that it will come and it will turn out for better. And I think that companies that are considered to be zebras and not only concentrating on maximizing their profit, but also are concentrating on maximizing impact and thinking about how to build sustainable companies will be the ones that are solving this challenge and that are kind of being the ones that will go out stronger out of this. And I'm really looking forward to see them. If you consider yourself a zebra, get back to us. Let's talk about where we can support you. We have a huge network out of mentors, business angels, contacts to investors, and they do still talk to startups, though it is an uncertain time. If you need some support, get back to us. We're super happy to support you, because I'm sure you will be the next Mark Zuckerbergs. The better Mark Zuckerbergs, of course.
Okay, with that, I would actually open up to anyone that might want to ask a question. You can, if anyone has any questions, you can.
Or remarks, anything that you agree, disagree.
Feel free to unmic. And if everyone's happy.
Looks like everyone's happy.
Oh,
there's somebody. You have to switch the mic on. It's on the left side, on the left button, down left.
Can you talk about the hackathon results you mentioned last week?
Yeah. So it was a little bit of so for those of you who don't know it, there was a hackathon from the federal government of Germany. Basically, it was the biggest hackathon ever organized. It was 42,000 people participating in it. It was very interesting because we had, I think, when we had the last call, exactly. So we had a call with all the judges on Tuesday evening. So it was a Zoom call with 700 people, which was very interesting. Basically, it was not a call. It was somebody explaining us how to do what. I have to say that, and this is not, I know that everything was like organized within a minute and stuff happens. I then received a lot of emails. So I was supposed to receive one email, but I received many emails with ideas that I had to judge on. So instead of judging 5 or 6, I then judged more than 30, which was okay. I mean, it took more time than I planned to do it, but anyway. And there were some ideas that I see a lot of potential in. There was a press conference with Doro Bär yesterday evening where they also announced some of the winners, but it is still not exactly clear, and that is like a little bit of a pity, but maybe also because of the time, of the shortness of the time, that there will be some financial support, but they do not pick like the one winner or something like that. It is more that they now see, okay, which ideas were judged, were rated the highest, and then the government will decide how they will go on, if they will invest money, if they will bring them in contact with some companies. And I have not heard back from them yet. If we can support some more ideas, so that is kind of the communication is, of course, a little bit complicated because it's such a huge amount of people that they have to bring under one umbrella. The team is still working on it. We are still in the Slack channel with the 42,000 people. But as you can imagine, communication is hard.
Well, on a great note, we have Anna Hubert from Tech for Germany with us next week, next Wednesday, who was organizing the We versus Virus. So I hope she's going to give us lots of insights into what the learnings were, organizing it, as well as what's happening now post judging, post, I mean, obviously there's a lot of startups ideas that came from this, and groups and collective togetherness. So maybe they have this post plan of what to do with all that energy. So hopefully next Wednesday we'll get to hear a little bit more of the co-organizers of the event. So for anyone that's interested, next Wednesday.
Yeah, and try to join that. It's a great idea to do this. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of an upheaval to organize it with 43-something thousand people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But in the end, I hope that Corona stays a little bit longer, that they finish that work, that it doesn't go away as usual, right? So, I mean, in that sense, it's good that we have like an end date for after Easter break or spring break, so that they actually can do the vetting and implement some of the ideas, at least for the time being. Right? So.
Yeah, but the thing that you have to add on this is that many of the ideas, I mean, it was like 1,500 ideas after the hackathon. I only saw like 30, but for sure some of them were in a very, very early stage. And of course, I mean, after 48 hours, it is an idea and maybe it is a short video. But I saw many of them that would need, and that's something that I also hope that will come into the discussion in Germany in general, that would need some changes in laws, especially when it comes to data protection. Because a lot of the things that, of course, we see now working in, for example, Singapore and South Korea, is because people are willing to share data and not willing to share data, but are sharing data, and the state just takes data. And that's, of course, something that is not given in Germany yet or in Europe yet. So it will be a lot of discussions that we also have to do there on a legal level. What is possible and how could we prevent this from happening again, and which data needs to be where and how can it be protected, and how willing are people to share their data. Like, do I really want to have an app on my phone that that can tell me afterwards whom I met during the last 2 weeks? Is that something that in Germany, would it work or would it not work? To be discussed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially for people who are having now who stay at home and don't reach out to their psychologist, for example, and have a real heavy time, staying inside. So the psychologist I know, they consulting now for free, because the tools of the government doesn't support. They can actually get money out of this consultative work, because they are not vetted for this work. So this is really ridiculous. So at least those things we should change afterwards, really. Yeah.
We actually had a guest on, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago, from Hello Better. We had the CEO, Hannes, Entschuldigung, Hannes, I knew something. Hannes was with us from Hello Better, and he was talking about how they've now are offering an added part of the platform for anyone affected by Corona. So because mental health is actually the biggest issue, because no one's used to being enclosed for such a long time. And I don't think anyone can admit it to themselves right away. It takes some days and maybe a week until people realize that they might be having a really difficult time with this. So Hannes gave a lot of great tips. We have a talk with him as well. It's online. And we also had Fabian said thank you. He added his LinkedIn. And for anyone else who's on board, we're going to send you guys a follow-up email with a link to, it's a private community group in Facebook and LinkedIn, and we'll share a link with you guys so you can join it, and you can also exchange your contacts if you'd like to, or add any more topics under our talk. So we'll make sure to keep you guys connected if you like. So we'll do that. You're welcome. Is there anyone else? that would like to add any more thoughts or questions? No? Okay. So we're here next week too. So if anyone wants to think about it, we're going to be here next Tuesday for the start of our 4th week. And we'll be doing this every Tuesday. And I think this is a really great format, actually, that we can have everyone on board and share their thoughts, and we can actively kind of discuss what people are going through and ask questions. So I think we'll keep it in this open format for the next time as well. Everyone can join per video. Gives it a different feeling, I have to say. Before, when we were doing these moderations and these talks, it was just like Maria and I. And now that I can see everyone else, I can tell that I feel like I'm acting a little bit more different. It's kind of strange because you see everyone, and it's more really like a more group dynamic. So it makes it more exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So let's keep it like this way. We hope to see you again next week.
All right. So bye, everyone. You'll get a feedback.
Stay in touch and stay healthy.